This video will provide you with an introduction on how to connect from an Apple OS X system to a remote system running Linux with an SSH server on it. This will be useful for you to connect to the MATLAB machines remotely from your computer if you happen to have an Apple OS X system. In order to do this, we first need to enable on our OS X system a shell or terminal window. Now, my system that I'm running here as a demonstration of this is an old OS X system that's quite a few years old, and yours may differ slightly, but the same functionality should be there for you as well. In order to enable a shell window, if you're not familiar with how to do that, usually on most Apple systems, you can go down to your applications folder, click on it. Yours may look different than mine does. And if you look around in there, you will generally find a terminal application. In my case, I have to move down a little bit here, and there'll be a subfolder under there called Utilities. And if I click on that, you'll see over here, I have a terminal app. So I can click on that to go ahead and launch that. I've actually already got one set up with the fonts made large so it's easy for you all to see. So I'm going to just basically make this go away and launch the one that I already have. So I'll click on that, and now I've got a terminal window up. Now, this is a command line interface, aka a shell, that you can type commands into. And most of the same commands that we're learning in class for working on Linux systems will work here. And you might wonder, how is that? How is that possible? Well, it's because of the fact that underneath the hood, Apple's OS X is built on top of a Linux Unix type operating system called BSD, which stands for Berkeley Software Distribution. And it's essentially something that looks almost identical to Linux. And so therefore commands which we'll learn in class, like date, I can type into the shell, hit enter, and I see this system date and time that I have here, or ls, which gives me a listing of the files and directories that I have in my current working directory here. So this will work just fine for what we're going to do here today, which is show you how to use SSH to connect to a remote system that's running an SSH server. So let me clear this so I don't have a little bit of gibberish in there. Now, the SSH client, which is going to be running on the OS X system, is just simply named SSH. So let's try to use this to actually connect to the MATLAB systems. So I'll enable the SSH client by typing SSH and then a space, and then my username on the MATLAB systems, which will be my net ID, and it will be your net ID in place of mine, but my net ID happens to be dswesty. And then an @ sign, and then the remote machine name that you're going to be connecting to. In this case, it's a machine name portal that's over in the physics building. And so the name of the machine is called Portal, that's the host name. And the fully qualified domain name is matlab.stonybrook.edu. So, matlab.stonybrook.edu. So our remote machine name in total is portal.matlab.stonybrook.edu. Now, when I hit return, that will start to make the connection. The first time you do this, you're going to see the message like the one I have up here on my terminal window. It says the authenticity of host portal.matlab.stonybrook.edu cannot be established. RSA key fingerprint is blah, 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 blah. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? What this is doing is it's asking you, it's saying, are you sure that this remote machine you're connecting to is a legitimate machine or not some other machine that's masquerading as the machine you want to connect to? In our case, since we're on a campus network and things are trusted there, we can simply say yes to that. So I'll say yes in here, hit return. I will never see that message again the next time I try to log in. It's only the very first time you will see this. So now I'm being prompted for my password on the portal machine. And my password there is simply my net ID password. So I'll put that in. Now, you may have heard me typing, but you didn't see anything appear. And that's simply because SSH, the client, does not display the password. That's in case somebody's standing behind you so that they can't look over your shoulder and see your password. So I'll hit enter, and now I'm logged in. You'll see this message here. It will give you various things that it'll provide you various pieces of information here about logging in. It'll say, welcome to Ubuntu 18.04.3. That's the version of the operating system that's running. It'll give you other information about things that you could do and tell you how to access MySB files here. We'll talk more about that coming up here soon. All right. And your home directory information, things like that. But you're now logged into the remote machine portal, or I'm logged into the remote machine portal, and I'm logged into a shell there. So if I type those commands like date, for example, it's showing me the date and time according to that remote system. If I type ls, it's showing me the files and directories that I have present on that remote system. In this case, I have very few things there. We'll talk more about what to do from the shell window coming up, but this shows you how we can log into a system remotely using SSH. When we're done executing commands on this remote system, we can simply exit by typing log out. All right, and if I type log out, execute that command, it disconnects me from the portal system. It'll tell me the connection to portal.mathlab.stonybrook.edu is closed. If I want to reconnect, I can just simply execute the same command again here. And in this case, I'll do SSH dswesty at portal.mathlab.stonybrook.edu. This time, you'll notice I didn't get that message about, are you sure you want to authenticate? All right, that will only happen the first time that you do this. So now I can just put in my NetID password again, and I'm connected. Now, one thing, and let me disconnect again. So now I'm disconnected again. One thing I'll warn you about, when you're prompted for your password, try to make sure you get it right. Try not to make mistakes. Most of our systems, and this is true of many Linux systems, all right, are running software that basically records every time that you make a failed password attempt. And after they get so many failed password attempts from a specific IP address, you'll be locked out for a certain period of time. All right, and this is to prevent people from trying to launch brute force attacks where they just simply try to guess passwords and basically over and over and over again try new passwords in order to break into an account. All right, so if you make more than 2 or 3 mistakes on the MATLAB systems, you'll probably be locked out for a period of maybe an hour or two before you can try again from that same IP address. If that happens, the only thing you can do at that point is to move to a different computer and try connecting from a different computer, or do something to try and get a new IP address for your computer in order to make that happen. So be careful, try not to make mistakes, and be very careful when you're typing in your passwords. Now, let me show you one other machine I'll connect to here, just to show you how this would work with a different machine. Let's suppose I want to connect to one of our machines over in the astronomy group, over in the Aerospace Science building. I can do that. I'll connect to a machine named Kirk that's over there. And I'll put in my password, or my username on Kirk, which is again dswesty. It just happens to be coincidence. It doesn't have to be the same, but it is. I'll put in that. I'll put in the name of the machine, Kirk, and then the fully qualified domain name, which is astro.sunysb.edu. And when I connect here to Kirk, I'll receive a login prompt here. You know, I have a little banner message here that tells me you're accessing the SUNY Stony Brook Astronomy Computing Facility, and it's provided for authorized use only, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and again, I'll put in my password. This password is different from my NetID password, so I'll enter this. But again, you don't see anything there even though I'm typing, and that's just so if someone's looking over my shoulder, they won't see the password. Now, I'm logged into the machine Kirk. If I do an ls command over there in that shell, you can see I've got a list of files that are present on the system there and directories that are present. It's somewhat different from what I had on the MATLAB machine. And anything I do here is now running remotely on the machine Kirk. Once again, when I'm done, I'll type logout and I'm disconnected. So hopefully that will help you in trying to understand how you may connect from your Apple OS X system to a remote system using SSH. Remember, the remote system must be running an SSH server, which typically most Linux systems will be. Right? If you have questions about this, please see me during office hours and I'll be happy to try and help you.